On the other hand, let us look at the government's track record on this matter, because now I see a new mood in most of the newspapers, some of the, well, a couple that are apologetic for the government, that they laud the president for getting involved and for directing the reduction of the rates. And they forget the history of this project. First of all, what we are seeing, what we saw in the newspapers this weekend, an expose of the contract. The government had this contract at least 5 months ago. The government had the same contract 5 months ago because they asked the Ministry of Finance to review the contract. So they can't claim they did not have this contract. Imagine the nation now gets hold only this weekend of a copy of the contract. Everybody in the whole country now can see its provisions. But the government of Guyana had a copy of this contract 5 months ago, had its ministry review this contract. The ministry had an adverse review of the contract. And yet, they proceeded to support it. And they can't claim that they did not support this project. So that's point one. They saw the contract, they had the contract, they knew about its provisions. Two, this project could not have started, come into effect without Bulkan, a minister, cabinet minister, signing the bylaws. So they not only had the contract, had a review done of the contract, gone against their own review of the contract, but then they had one of their cabinet ministers help to bring this contract into being. So who takes approval for that? Is it not Granger himself? Granger on many occasions have said, I don't want to get involved in this. This is a local, purely local government matter, etc. Yet it was his government that brought this project into being. The others only signed the contract, the city council people. This contract could not have been consummated, materialized, had the government not give it its blessing. Had the government not given its blessing to it, because they wouldn't have signed the thing. And so, then the excuses. So the excuses started pile on once civil society got involved, and they saw how potent the protest was by members of civil society. And we support those members of civil society who were in the protest. So suddenly the AFC, because it was only Sherrod Duncan who had distanced himself, suddenly the central leadership that had been part of this process, that had refused to intervene or make a public statement, suddenly the AFC wants the contract looked at again. Then the cabinet found out, the cabinet said they didn't approve the bylaws. The cabinet didn't approve the bylaws. So if the cabinet did not approve the bylaws, how did Bulkan sign the bylaws? He is a cabinet member. So did he act on his own? If he acted on his own to bring this corrupt project into being, the president needs to take action against him. And if he did not act on his own, then, and he had cabinet approval to sign the bylaws, then Granger needs to deal with it. In any case, he needs to take responsibility for both. Can't absolve himself. And so, and then we saw, again, an extension of this duplicitous act. The president then convenes a meeting after he was so concerned about interfering in local government issues. And he could have brought the project to a standstill right at the beginning. He then convenes a meeting and directs the reduction of the rates, although he's not a party to the contract. And now what? I don't know whether that would materialize, but that in itself does not address the contract itself. There are so many other features of that contract that are unbelievably stacked in favor of the investor, that a mere reduction of the price of the parking meter will not remove this yoke that has been placed on the back of the citizens of Georgetown. So that is why we're saying a mere reduction, a palliative, is not adequate. So the president intervening now, contrary to all that he said before. But what his government has done by giving approval for this contract, because they gave approval for it by putting that the bylaws in place to bring the contract into being, by doing that, he has now saddled us with unbelievable liabilities should this contract be repudiated. So just imagine now there is a fissure and the contract, the agreement is broken, and the people sue, and you saw the terms of the settlement. It would expose the city council to billions of dollars of liabilities. And we can only put the blame at the doorstep of this government. So whilst the civil society, rightfully, the protest is focused on City Hall, my focus is on the role of this government in the project. Now it's backing out, It's running from its original decisions, but it was this government that supported this contract, and that includes the AFC right from the beginning. So our call is for the contract to be scrapped, and using the grounds, because if we scrap it only on the terms of this contract, on the contract itself, we will expose the city to a huge liability. We have to go after this contract in a manner which says that from the beginning, it was not properly done. We have to argue that it was corrupt in its nature.